Please welcome back Warren Pereira. There will be a Q&A for audience questions, so someone will come up to you if you have a question, and I'll call on you. So there's so many points of contention in this documentary. Was it difficult for you to find people to talk to about any of the issues raised here?
Yeah, I mean, some people just wouldn't give me the interview, you know, and then some others it took a few times going back, and the lead activist, Chandrabal, he was pretty good because it took a while to get his point across. Valmik Thapar, the guy who's, you know, the powerful speaker, like, he just gave me one interview, but it was pretty amazing because he's a writer, so he has all these preformed sentences and thoughts about everything. And
he was my favorite.
Yeah, and I kind of pissed him off a little bit, but it worked out in the documentary, you know. So. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite person that you interviewed?
Well, I mean, in terms of a filmmaker, he's the best kind of interview you want because, you know, he's passionate, he's entertaining, and he knows what he's talking about, you know. But do I have a favorite? I mean, you know, not really. I mean, you get all these interviews you think in the moment, then you go to edit, and then it's like it has to be 90 minutes, or you won't get distribution, you're cutting people out, so it's like, you know, I'm just glad people gave me the interview. Yeah. I was really humbled that they would take the time to do it, and I insisted on interviewing people where they lived in their environments, because I think where they lived and represents who they are as a character, as opposed to like doing like a green screen or a gray screen or something. So they let me into their homes and make me lunch and dinner, and like, which is a very Indian thing actually. So yeah, it was overall good. Although some people did tell me to screw off, you know.
How much time do you think you've spent filming in India over the course of the years getting all the footage?
Too much time. I mean, seriously, I saw this tiger in 2012. Yeah. And at the time, he wasn't like a big controversial, famous thing. That's when he's in the water, he looked right at me. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I want to follow this tiger. And everyone told me not to follow him because he's a male, and traditionally you follow a female with cubs because you get better shots. Yeah. And I said, oh, I'm just going to follow him. It's my money. And, and then 3 years later, you know, I got a call saying he's going to be removed, and there was a court case. Yeah. And so to answer your question, it's been 10 years, but I mean, obviously in the beginning it was just going to the forest for a month, coming back, putting on a hard drive, and then later on it got more and more involved, and in the last few years it's really consumed me, and I think affected my mental health, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Was there something that like you wanted to have in the documentary, but it just like, it didn't fit anywhere and it just ended up on the cutting room floor?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like lots. I mean, there's so much footage of, there's you know, Neil Soni is over here. He's been to Ranthambore. There's diehard T24 fans. I have the best footage of him because no one was following him, and so I was hoping to be able to make a documentary where we can just like hang out with the tiger and just have all this footage of him just like in the wild. But you know, you get to this point where people say you have to cut this out, you have to tell this story, so I just cut it out because they think the movie will never sell if it goes above 2 hours. And so yeah, I'd like to, you know, if there's like a behind the scenes featurette, I mean, there's lots of footage, yeah, for sure.
No, that would be awesome. It's funny, I watched this film in January, and I unfortunately got COVID, and I was just like sleeping all the time. And then and watching movies was like the only thing I could do, like that wouldn't make me tired. And I watched your film, like, and I was just like, oh my God, like I was just like riveted the entire time. I'm like, give me a mini series, like give me like 4 sequels. I was like, I'd be down for that. Yeah, it was so great. Since completing the documentary, have you seen any improvements to the park or the surrounding areas?
So when he was first removed, there was no killings for about 2 years. And then there was actually an increase. And one of the tigers, I think it was T98, killed somebody within his territory. So the question then, is it the tiger or the territory? And then there was another tiger, T104, who killed people inside and outside the territory. So I think it's the situation in Ranthambore. And so, I mean, I think they're doing a really good job under the circumstances. I mean, India has the most wild tigers. We have 3,000. and there's only like about 4,000 or 5,000 left in the wild. So, when you look at the doc, you're like, how are they managing this place? But they are, in the way they are. So I think they're managing under a really bad circumstance, which got established from the habitat destruction and a lot of population in India. So it's really bad, and they're doing a pretty good job given the circumstance. Because if they had like more inviolate space, then this would be less of a problem. But they just don't have that space. So you've got a tiger reserve, and you've got villagers just outside, like 200 feet outside. And so that's hard to manage,
Have you seen T24 since you wrapped filming?
Yeah, I've seen him, yeah.
And is it sad?
Huh?
How is he?
Well, I mean, he's not the same as in the wild. And when I saw him in the zoo, like he actually like came to kill me, to be honest, because he's not the same. I think he feels on edge. Whereas in the wild, I was around him all the time, and he would go around the Jeep and almost under the Jeep sometimes. And so he's definitely not the same animal. But again, his enclosure is pretty big for a zoo animal, but he's not a zoo animal. So he doesn't understand what it's like to be in an enclosure,
I know in the documentary it's pretty objective, I think, as term as like documentaries go, but can you share like what your personal thoughts are?
Yeah. I mean, I think, the whole thing with the man-eater thing is you have to define what a man-eating tiger is. So if we define a man-eater as a tiger that seeks human flesh and leaves the core area to attack humans, then T24 is not that, because all the attacks occurred in his territory. But if you say that T24 is a man-eater because he did eat people after he killed them, you could say he's a man-eater. So to me, he was a bit of a problem animal because he was a dominant male in a forest where people enter the core illegally because they're poor. And so within that context, he's a problem, but ideally, he's not. He's like this awesome male tiger that's huge, and the kind of tigers that were actually shot a lot back in the day, because my grandfather used to actually shoot tigers. That's kind of part of why I made the documentary. And he used to also go after the big males because that's the big trophy with the big head. And so T20 is one of those rare, tigers that's still like the classic giant like tiger. And so it's sad that this happened to him. And I sort of think it's no one's fault. They just made a call, and calls in wildlife management are never perfect.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Anybody? Yes, this woman right here.
Warren, congratulations on an absolutely fabulous movie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming.
So I represent the Bengali Cultural Society of Cleveland, and we are the community partners, and I have a comment and a question. The comment being that, when as partners, the community partner, we were working with CIFF, and we were given a number of films to choose as to which one we would partner. And then we looked at it, and there was a trailer for this movie, and I said, Mary, that's it. This is the one that we want to partner with.
Right.
And then subsequently, there was a private link that was sent to me and said, you can watch this full movie. I said, no, I don't want to watch this full movie. I want to watch the premiere. I'm so glad I took the decision. This is absolutely fabulous that I've watched this in person. And you wouldn't get this feeling in streaming because, in my opinion, it's because of the background score that you had in this setting. I think there was it riveted up the suspense, the drama, and that message of hope that you had in the end of what we should do. Tell us something about that background score, how the scorist, and how you went about it.
Yeah, so the score, to me, you get a good composer, it's like cheating for a filmmaker, because you're just like, this guy's gonna make your movie better, basically, right? And so the original score is by Krang. He's based out of Belgium. And I'd been talking to him for about 3 years before he did the score, because the film was like finished 4 years ago, but then it was not, then it was recut. And so he had this very dark sound, and he had done this part of the score for a movie called Mandy that I'd heard, and so I wanted to get him, but it was money issues, like getting him the right price. And so finally the way we got him was I licensed the score. I don't own this score. I had to license the score. So, and basically, I told him, what I want in each scene, and he would go do his own thing, and I would leave him alone, and he'd come back, and most of the time was pretty close, and then we'd do notes. The thing he couldn't do, to be honest, was the hopeful theme that you're talking about. He's not a very happy composer. Everything is dark, right? So there was another guy who wanted to do the score. His name is Mel Elias, and he only could do the theme well, according to me. According to him, he could do the whole score well. So we had this whole thing, and I said, listen, I just want your theme, the piano theme. I don't want the score. So he finally said, conceded. So it's actually two people over here, and it works out because that's sort of the film. There's one side saying he's a killer, and the other side he's saying he's this wonderful defender of his family and his territory. So that's how it happened, yeah. But I think the score really helps. It makes my filmmaking look way better than it is, and it's almost like a music video. The whole thing is almost score, Yeah.
Right behind. Right there. Yes, you.
Thank you, Warren. It's an excellent movie.
Thanks.
I have one question that you started to aware that this is a big problem between the animal and the human. We are living together. We are entering in their territory, not allowing them to live on their life own, but they are coming in us. So you started talking about this. Do you have any other plan to go back and to see whether any other improvement have been done so that they could live in their territory on their own? One thought I was thinking that, can they make a huge fencing, electrical fencing or wire fencing, so that they could not come and people cannot go inside that territory and we do not go in there and get killed ourselves and blame them that they are becoming the man-eater?
Yeah.
Do you have any plan to go back future or give them any suggestion so that they can improve in Indian government or National Conservation Society, improve that?
Right. Well, first of all, I'm a filmmaker. I'm not a conservationist. And the Indian government is not going to want me telling them what to do with their tigers. So that's why I've pointed out, I've made this film primarily based on their interviews, and I only saved my opinion for the very end, if you noticed. But I'll give you an answer to your question. That your solution, which sounds great, sounds like a big zoo, okay? And so you don't want to do that in a tiger reserve because you actually want to leave certain areas open and create corridors so wild tigers will actually leave at night and go through a village quietly to another territory, and this reduces inbreeding and also tells the wildlife officials where there should be potential corridors and more tiger territories. There is a wall around quite a big area of Ranthambore Tiger Reserve, but the tigers can jump over it, and the villagers can jump inside as well. And I just think it's going to be more about trying to get a buffer in between as opposed to walling it up, because we still want it to be an open, free-ranging tiger reserve. We don't want it to be a zoo. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yes. Hi, my name is Lopa. First, let me just say congratulations. This is a fantastic, fabulous movie.
Thank you.
I feel conflicted and muddled at this point in terms of questions because I'm a big fan of Jim Corbett's books.
Yep.
And the way he not only kills the tiger at the end, he has a superb details of how he kills them, and at the same time empathizes with them. So my question first is, why Tiger Project? Why follow a tiger?
Well, I wrote a narrative film around 2009, 2010. Couldn't get it going, couldn't get the money together. Then I'm from India, so my brother got married into a Punjabi girl. And so it was a big wedding. I filmed it on a 5D. And I'm not, at the time I wasn't a cinematographer, I was just a director. And so after that, I learned the 5D, went to a tiger reserve, filmed some tigers, and I said, I can just make a tiger doc, it'll be easy. I had no idea I would get into this. So then I started filming different subjects of tigers till I saw T24. And I said, okay, I'm gonna follow this guy. And then it just grew and grew and grew. And so, I finished it because I think it's an important film for conservation.
No question.
I think, it definitely was not a good commercial idea. I'm probably never going to make the money and time back, but I think it's important because it's entertaining enough and talks about the ground reality. It's not just pretty shots. So that's how I started, and then I finished it because of the integrity of the film, you know.
I know, not commercial, but you'll be surprised how much of a response you'll get once you actually release it in India.
Yeah, well, we're looking for international
For
distributor.
sure,
Yeah,
for sure. By the way, you speak excellent Hindi.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This was a wonderful experience.
Thank you. Someone back there. One back
I think
there.
someone behind you,
okay.
yes.
Sarah, we'll get to your question.
Hi.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, did you use any local crew to do this film?
Yes, it's all local. I mean,
All of them?
I mean,
Oh.
I had two main camera ops, Sujit and Vishal, who did an amazing job because they're both from Mumbai. So in Mumbai, when you rent a camera, it comes with a human being. I was just surprised. I was like, oh, you got this guy with you, and you know, so I was like, why is this guy here? And initially, I didn't want them because I was like, I'm gonna do it on my own. But then they were a huge help, and I depended more and more on them, and it actually made me take my ego out of it because when T-24 was in the Tiger Reserve, I went to every safari to film him. And once he got removed, I was still doing that, and I realized I have these camera ops. Like, what am I doing? I should be doing the research. I should be conducting the interviews. So as the schedule went on, I stopped filming, and I would just say, look, I need a wide of a tiger across this lake. Just spend 10 hours there and get it for me while I do this interview. So yeah, everyone in India was local. Yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah, I mean, the post was obviously done in Los Angeles and Belgium, but everyone in India, yeah, was local. Yeah.
So, can I ask a second question? Was
Sure.
that, you know how in the interviews there were people who were pro-tiger, and then people who were against it. So is the industry in that village about there are certain people who benefit from the tourism, and therefore they are more likely to want to preserve, and then there are others who are not beneficiary of that? Did you see any discrepancy like that?
Yeah, I mean, most of the economy there is tourism, you know, in that town. So in a way, they all benefit. But you know, the question is, you know, would they think they benefit more or less with T-24 in or out? So you know, you could argue like we're not getting rich tourists from Europe and the U.S. with the man-eating tiger roaming around, or we are because that would be cool to see. I don't know, but I just think it became heated, and like if you really. I didn't really expose this in the film because it's too petty, but if you go to Ranthambore, there's a lot of politics amongst the photographers, who has the better shots and who went off-roading and who complained about who, and so some of this fighting started with like really petty things, which I chose to leave out of the film because, you know, the bigger questions in the film is like, do tigers deserve a space in the world today? It was the more important questions that came out of maybe some pettiness, you know.
This person over here.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you very much for the excellent film. I have two brief questions. One, Ranthambore, I think, is famously known for how elusive its tigers are. How much of the month that you spent there did you actually, you know, manage to see animals, and you know, how, you know, what were the challenges kind of logistically?
Okay, so first of all, Ranthambore tigers are not elusive. You'll definitely see a tiger. You spend 3-4 days there, you'll see a tiger. Maybe it's far away, but you know, you spend a week, you'll get a tiger up close. So it's pretty easy to see tigers in Ranthambore because there's a lot of them in a small territory, and it's a dry, deciduous forest. So there's less foliage, so you can see through stuff a lot easier. For me, it was hard because I was following one male tiger. Males have massive territories. Dominant males have even bigger territories. And usually males don't do anything. They sit around and sleep all day. And then, you know, I've got so many shots of them sleeping, you know, we just stop rolling after a while. So the females do most of the hunting and all that stuff, and the males are called into action with them to protect, you know, the female from an incoming male. So in that sense, it was difficult. And then, you know, just when I first started, like any shot was good. Oh my God, this great close-up. Oh, this got his paw. You realize later on, like, yeah, it's not that good. You know, you need some insanely good shot, like that opening shot, which I didn't even take. It was my second unit. You know, you need that shot of him in the water, which I took, where he's right in the middle. You need something like that good to make it to the cutting floor. And then on top of that, you need a story. And on top of that, you need it in 4K and get it properly color corrected. So you need like a million things to like make it really good. And I still think the shots in the film are pretty good, but they're not like, I don't know, like some of the BBC stuff, which is just like shot after shot after shot is just like gorgeous photography. I think we relied more on the story, and we populated the film with some pretty shots because I've been told people like those, you know? So.
You had some great shots. Please don't sell yourself short.
Thank you, thank you.
If you'll permit me a second one, you know, at a bunch of different points in the film and in talking here, you know, you've made the point that the lack of a buffer zone was maybe one of the driving issues, you know, behind the attacks and, you know, the conflict between, you know, people and tigers. But didn't really talk at all about, you know, maybe, I think it's a complicated question, you know, what can be done, you know, what is possible there, you know, given the context, the politics, you know, the challenges of, you know, land and whatnot, you know, from this, what was your impression of, you know, what's possible to improve the situation?
I think it's all management. They have to constantly manage the situation. So they're providing, you know, incentives to the villagers to not go inside the core like jobs, you know, outside. They do look at straying tigers. The government knew on the first attack that it was T-24. Now, they didn't label him as the killer because they actually didn't want him to be removed. They actually liked the guy, but it just became too much after a while. So they monitor these tigers. There's NGOs, like there's one called Tiger Watch that does a pretty good job, which they have the villagers hired to take pictures and set camera traps and see who's going in for food or for poaching or whatever. So it's definitely not perfect. There's still going to be people killed and attacks occurring, but like I said earlier, it's a bad situation which you're managing. It's sort of like you have this disease and you have this medicine that keeps it at bay but doesn't fully resolve it. If you want to fully resolve it, you just like all of a sudden give this amazing incentive to the villagers to just move way out and have all this space for tigers, but there's only so much money the government has, and you're controlling villagers who don't want to leave. Some of them want to be in the village. You know, so I don't have the solution. I really don't. I wish I did. You know.
Thank you.
I think we have time for one more question. Yes, back there.
Hi, if T-24 got released back into the wild, would he survive? And what would he do with the tiger that took over his territory? Like, you know, like, it's a fight, so what would they do if he did get released? Would he survive, and what would happen?
I don't think he'd be able to withstand another dominant male at this point because he's got sick in the zoo more than the one time you see here, because it happened again later on. I just didn't want to have 10 sick episodes in the movie. And also, he's not used to hunting anymore or stealing prey from other carnivores, so he's just used to being fed every day. So I think if he clashed with another, like T-57 or another dominant male, he would be beaten now, sadly. If they did want to release him, they would have to go through this process, which is very controversial, called rewilding, where they would put him in an even larger enclosure, throw in a goat that's alive, see if he can kill it, then throw in like, you know, wild prey like a deer, see if he can kill it and digest it, and then slowly release him. But you know, at this point, you know, he's like 16 years old, and you know, he would be probably dead in the wild around 16 or 17. Like his father died when he was 17.
One last question. So it's
Yeah.
a beautiful documentary. Is there anything that we can do to protect that conservatory for the tigers in India?
Yeah, I mean, we're building a website right now where we've listed, you know, the organizations that actually do good work. So that website will go live in about a month, and I can, you know, it'll be tiger24movie.com. And then, you know, I hope that people can tell people about this movie, and because I think the movie has a lot of awareness. So I have a distributor. I don't know where they're going to distribute the film. hopefully like a good streaming service, and I'd love people to see it and maybe show it in schools and stuff like that. I think it's an entertaining film that talks about an important topic.
Right. More just the tigers, but Conservatory and the human nature between animals and humans. So thank you for this.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you so much. Thank you.